Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. We are continuing with more decks updated with the standard format in Furious Fists, and today we're going to look at a very interesting card, perhaps an overlooked card, and that's going to be Dragonite EX. So Dragonite EX has the ability Bust In. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you basically get to do a scramble switch to Dragonite. He comes to the active, he can take energy from anywhere actually, and put him on himself and become active. So it's actually a little better than Scramble Switch in the fact that it can take energy from anywhere, but it is only basic energy, so there is that downside. But the idea here is we're going to be using Dragonite EX to bust in, get energy on him, and then start attacking with Jet Sonic. So it does 80 damage, and then if you want to discard an energy, it does 40 more damage. Now that's not a very strong attack compared to some of these other crazy things we see nowadays, but you'll see this is actually going to be good enough to work. The math adds up pretty well as well. If we do 80 damage, next turn we could do 120 and pretty much knock out anything, or if we have a muscle band, we can do 100 and then 80. There's just all sorts of ways. You'll basically two-hit knockout most things, which is good enough when we get to the actual strategy of the deck. I guess we can just go right into that right now, alright? So you want to bust in as often as possible, and then when your Dragonite gets hurt, you can bust in with another Dragonite, right? We can just keep cycling Dragonites, and we're going to play 4 Super Scoop Up. So basically, when your Dragonite gets hurt, you bust in with another one, and then you try to super scoop up the damaged one, and then when the new one gets damaged, you bust in with the new Dragonite, and then so on and so forth, and just keep cycling them. And you can actually deny your opponent prizes pretty well with this combo here. Super Scoop Up, Dragonite EX. Of course, this is a flip, so it's not the most reliable card in the world, but if you can hit 1 or 2 of these, you are golden. And then, of course, our A-Spec is then going to be Scoop Up Cyclone. It's basically Super Scoop Up without the flip, but it is an A-Spec, so it kind of balances out. Scoop Up Cyclone makes the most sense for this kind of a deck, where we're trying to do that anyway. So, pretty cool combo we got going on here with the Scoop Ups and Dragonite, and that's basically the idea for the deck. Now, we do have some supporting Pokemon to help us set up and whatnot. Virizion EX is going to be our setup Pokemon. Verdant Wind is just nice in general to block. Hypnotoxic Laser make it more difficult for people to knock out Dragonite in one hit. Emerald Slash is going to be really good though. Turn 2 we can just get a bunch of grass energy in play and just make it so we have enough for Dragonite to kind of bust in for the rest of the game. 1 Emerald Slash is honestly enough to get us going. Right? Once we get like 4 energy in play, that's pretty awesome. Then we can just use Dragonite and go from there. So 4 Virizion EX because we want to start with it, and then sometimes we can also use Emolga EX. Now this is an almost unused card. It is honestly unplayable in a lot of scenarios. It's a 110 HP Pokemon that's not going to do much damage most of the time, but we're going to use it for Energy Glide. You can search for a Lightning Energy, attach it to Emolga EX, and then put it to the bench. So this, if you go second, you can attack with Energy Glide turn 1 and get 2 energy into play. And then turn 2, you can bust in with Dragonite. So that's just another option to go with. Alright, so those are our setup Pokemon. We are weak to Pyroar since we don't have any evolutions. So to deal with that messy Pyroar, we're going to go with Beartic. Right, it's the water stage 1 Pokemon. It's an evolution, and it has Igloo Hold. We've seen this in a previous video. It does 20 plus 20 for each. Colorless energy in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. So if we were to use Igloo Hold against another Beartic, it would do 100 damage. This knocks out Pyroar in 1 hit, and then it knocks out Landorus EX as well in 1 hit if you have a Muscle Band attached. So Beartic, just a nice solid card. Colorless energy, so we don't need to put any energy to attack with it. It's a nice fit into this kind of a deck. Our other Pokemon, we're going to have Mr. Mime just to, block some bench damage. There's a lot of bench hitters in the format right now, so Mr. Mime is a very valuable card. And then 1 Mewtwo EX, since sometimes our opponent will just get a big giant Pokemon like an Evoltal EX or a Mewtwo EX with a bunch of energy, and that's one way to knock out Dragonite in one hit, so we're going to play our own Mewtwo to kind of counter that. Alright, so the rest of the deck is going to be pretty simple. There aren't too many tricks we have here. We do have 7 Grass Energy, 4 Lightning, since we do need 2 Grass and 1 Lightning to use Jet Sonic. So we do need the different types here, along with 1 Professor's Letter to search out the correct type. And then an Energy Retrieval just to get 1 or 2 back as well if we need energy over the course of the game. Of course, this was reprinted in Plasma Blast, so it still is in the format. Our supporters are actually going to be pretty straightforward. 4 Skyla, 4 Professor Juniper, 4 N, 2 Chorus, so that's 14 total draw or search supporters, and then 2 Lysander as well. Since we do 2-hit knockout a lot of things, they're going to go to the bench a lot, so we need to finish them off by bringing them back out with Lysander. So 2 is a pretty good count in here. I could even see 3 in this kind of a deck. 2 Startling Megaphone. This is very important against Garbodor to retain our abilities. Also very important against Genesec's G-Booster, who can pretty much blow up Dragonite. We need to Startling Megaphone and get rid of that right away. So 2 of those, very, very necessary in this deck. Couple switching cards, 1 switch and 1 escape rope, just because we do get in some awkward spots where Bust-In doesn't do the job. Like we start off with a Dragonite, we want to switch into Virizion EX turn 2, or we have a Dragonite active and we want to attack with a Beartic, switch and escape rope, get the job done there. 4 Ultra Ball just to search out our Pokemon, and then we do have a couple tools in here. Muscle Band is the obvious one. Going to play this in almost every deck nowadays, but the not so obvious one is actually going to be Hard Charm. So it reduces damage done to the Pokemon it's attached to by 20. And it's important because it allows Dragonite to survive a lot longer. You'll be surprised how often reducing by 20 makes a big difference between a knockout and not a knockout. So Hard Charm is actually a pretty cool card in here, especially when there's things like Landorus EX and other things that try to chip away with small damage and then add up later for big KOs. So Hard Charm, I do like this card in this deck. It just goes along with the theme of allowing Dragonite to survive over and over. So here we have it, just kind of my first draft of a Dragonite deck. Not sure if it's a good list or not, but hey, that's what testing is for. And speaking of that, let's check out a game I played on Pokemon TCG Online using good old Dragonite. I haven't seen Dragonite in competitive play for a while that I can think of, so it's kind of cool to see it come back. Dragonite, of course, one of the coolest Pokemon, Generation 1. So my opponent mulliganed a bunch of times, and then my opponent is also going first. And I noticed they were most likely using a Virizion Genesect deck. And if that's the case, I'm actually going to opt to open up with Mr. Mime instead of Virizion EX. Now, why in the world would I do that? Well, if my opponent gets a turn 2 Emerald Slash and hits my Virizion EX, then it's just a simple Megalo Cannon knocking out my Virizion EX. So instead of having my 2 prize Virizion EX take the hit, I'm going to have my 1 prize Mr. Mime take the hit. And, that way my opponent will take 1 prize, and then I can force him to take 3 EX knockouts to win. Since I don't really find a use for Beartic in this kind of a matchup, we never need to put Cubchoo or Beartic down on the bench. So there we go. Turn 2, my opponent's going to get a second energy and an Emerald Slash with a Muscle Band, knocking out Mr. Mime. And I'm glad Mr. Mime took the hit instead of my Virizion EX. Right? That's exactly what I wanted. And so far, so good. Right? For going second, this is exactly what I could have asked for. And here I'm going to go with the Skyla, just grab a supporter. I will take that N and just get that into my hand. And here we can go ahead and Emerald Slash. I may as well hit for 70, I suppose. Doesn't really, probably won't make a difference that much, but we'll go ahead and get the extra damage out there. Perhaps if I used Dragonite and had a Muscle Band on him, I wouldn't have to discard energy for Jet Sonic. So may as well go for it. Don't feel like Muscle Band's going to be particularly useful in this matchup beyond this, so we'll see. Oh, we see an Herbal Energy, so there's an unexpected scenario. Right, Herbal Energy now puts Virizion EX out of Jet Sonic range, so I will need a Muscle Band to knock it out. But here is going to be the big turn. It's a little scary because there are a lot of Genesect back there with a lot of energy. So I am a little bit concerned about that. Could see a G-Booster immediately, but we have enough energy in play to get knocked out and then follow up with another Dragonite. So I'm not particularly worried. Going to go for the Super Scoop up, picking up the Virizion EX just to get the Muscle Band back, and we'll bench it back down. Did put the Muscle Band on the active. Going to play the N. We need a Lightning Energy, and did not get it. Uh-oh. Well, that's not good. So instead of getting a big knockout here, I'm going to have to switch. This was a bad thing. Could not find any of my Lightning Energy or my Professor's Letter. So I'm going to have to Emerald Slash here. And I'm actually out of Grass Energy. What is going on? That means I have 2 Grass Energy prized. This is just not going well. My opponent's got 2 fully powered Genesect basically on the bench. We see a switch. So that Virizion EX is going to escape. And then a Chorus for 5. So if my opponent gets an Energy here, can Megalo Cannon. Energy and a G-Booster can knock out my Virizion EX. So that would be bad. And alright, we shall see what will happen right here. If my opponent got a Plasma Energy, maybe we could see a red signal onto Dragonite, and then a Megalo Cannon, that's an option. That would hurt, but then I would probably just Ultra Ball for a new Dragonite and bust in, and okay, that's going to happen. Plasma Energy, red signal out the Dragonite, and Megalo Cannon. I'm glad there was no G-Booster with that. That would have been painful. But nope, looks like that's not the case. And here I will Skyla, and I need to grab Professor's Letter this time. And indeed, I will. Just to get the Lightning Energy. Get those 2 Lightning Energy. And are you... What is going on? I don't think I've used the Lightning yet. And I only have 2 in the deck, so I have 2 Grass prized and 2 Lightning prized. Oh, boy. So instead of discarding a Lightning here, I'm actually going to discard Muscle Band because I need all my energy. Don't want to put Emolga EX down. That seems like a bad Pokemon to put in play in this matchup. So we're going to go with the Bustin'. Go ahead and shove the other Dragonite out of the way. Put the new Dragonite in charge. And then go for the big Jet Sonic. And that's going to be 120 damage. This seems like a good idea. Right, we'll hit for 120. That way I can follow up with an Emerald Slash if need be. And then if Virizion takes a hit, we can then bust in with Dragonite, and seems cool. All right, so we do see a Skyla here. Uh-oh. There is the G-Booster, and that means my Dragonite is not going to survive. And that is very bad news. That's not cool at all. We do see a 3rd energy onto the bench, Genesect EX, and actually a G-Booster goes on to the active. I'm surprised my opponent wouldn't retreat there, and then G-Booster with the fresh Genesect on the bench. Seems like that may have been the better option, but what do I know? And here I'm just going to Emerald Slash, I think. No need to use another Dragonite here if I don't have to. Going to Skyla for N. Since my opponent is down to a low number of prize cards, so go ahead and do the Emerald Slash for 50, so that Jet Sonic for 120, definitely paying off. Going to take my 2 prizes, got another Lightning Energy, and who knows what's going to happen from here. I really don't know. There's a lot of stuff that can happen. We see a startling Megaphone getting rid of my Muscle Band. That shouldn't be too relevant. And here is a Juniper. Uh-oh. So we're running into a problem here. I had my first Dragonite knocked out by G-Booster. The second Dragonite is damaged. So if we see a red signal, and okay, there's a red signal. speak of the devil. It's going to be a knockout, and I will actually be down to 1 Dragonite. So my whole bust-in strategy, not going to work when I only have 1 Dragonite left. I can bust in once, but then when this Dragonite gets damaged, I can't do it again. So this is problematic, to say the least. I will bust in here, though. Go ahead and put the Dragonite in the active spot, and then end my opponent down to a single card. And I actually drew some good stuff off that end. We got 2 Super Scoop Ups. And I'm going to Jet Sonic here for 80 damage. I don't know if I need to do 120. Even with like an Herbal Energy, I can Jet Sonic again for just discarding the energy and getting the knockout. So I'll just keep the energy for now. Doesn't seem like there's any real benefit to discarding the energy. I'm running low on energy too. I got a bunch of them prized. So I don't want to discard if I don't have to. I may not be able to attack next turn if I do the discard. So let's just go with the 80 damage. Seems like the right way to go. And really hoping for no G booster here. That would be a real bummer. Looks like we have an escape rope though. My opponent would need Shadow Triad for G booster. They would be super unlucky, but I would lose the game if it happened. We do have an escape rope here. Trying to figure out which Virizion EX to promote. I'm going to go with the one with no energy on it. I don't know if that made a huge difference there. I'm probably going to Super Scoop Up, pick them up off the board. That way I don't lose to a Red Signal or a Lysander. But we're going to see a Lysander from my opponent and an Emerald Slash for 70 damage. And 2 energy going on to the Mewtwo EX. Uh-oh. All right, well, now I'm going to need to hit one of my Super Scoop Up here to preserve the old Dragonite. There's a Tails. Uh-oh. Super Scoop Up. And there's a Heads. All right. So we get to bring the Dragonite back into my hand. And then we do have enough energy in play again to bust in. So we'll go ahead and bust in the Dragonite and attach another energy. Going to Chorus for a nice 5 cards here. And Ultra Ball just to thin out the deck a little bit. Gonna Ultra Ball, getting rid of the Cubchoo and the Startling Megaphone, because Startling Megaphone won't matter anymore. If my opponent gets a G Booster, I lose. If my opponent gets a Muscle Band on Mewtwo, it won't really change the math. So let's Jet Sonic for 80, and all of a sudden, we are in a decent position to win the game with a Lysander in hand. I could Lysander that bench Genesect and get the knockout for the win. And this is very strange considering we missed that big turn of Jet Sonic early on in the game. And we got the hit by a G Booster, got hit by a Red Signal. But Dragonite is making the comeback. Super Scoop Up MVP here. And just an X-Ball for 100 damage. That means Lysander bringing out the bench Genesect. And we will Jet Sonic for 120 damage. Slashing and biting, apparently, to knock out Genesect EX for the victory. And Dragonite busting his way through all those Virizion and Genesect for a win. So you can see Dragonite has some great potential here. The Super Scoop Up is huge. That's really what makes the card work. You also have Cassius. That's a card I didn't mention. Supporter that does a very similar thing, but I prefer Super Scoop Up. More exciting. But yeah, Dragonite, its weakness is one-hit knockouts, but man, if they don't knock you out in one hit, it is very, very strong. And oh great, I got a Furious Fist Pack off of the mystery box as well, so pretty pumped about that. But hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.